Hey y'all, it is Amy Cerny Vasterling, and let's talk about how we collapse narcissism. But I want to focus on one tenet of posturing in the model. And this falls on the side of the person who might be behind the scenes cleaning up after the narcissist. And that is about worry, is the tenet that we're going to talk about today. So, what does worry really say? And when we worry about somebody, or let's say we worry about ourselves, the energy of that, which I know that's kind of cheesy or whatever it is for you, just let it be whatever it is. But for me, it's a little bit like, is I don't believe you can. And that's the same thing when we think about others. It is saying to them, if we worry about them, I don't think you can. Right. And there are things to be afraid of in our world, illness, so on. And there are times that we can worry until we get the facts. And that is okay, right? We need to ask for support and we can claim, I'm worried. I don't know how to not worry in this situation. And somebody can be there for you emotionally. But when it comes to things such as worrying you'll never get a different job or worrying you aren't, a big one for a lot of people is good enough, being good enough, that there is an irrational component to that because we know we are, but we also need to do what I say. And I usually point back behind me like this and say we have to deal with ourselves behind the scenes and wrestle through the frustration of whatever creates that worry for us. And often it's an inner child part that didn't see itself or was told it was something it wasn't. And those parts individually represent our personality as a whole, is what I've found in doing some deep work with that. And it is a tenet in my work of healing our shadow, which I believe can be healed completely, setting us free. And where I think we're headed, we need to be free of that. But that's not a threat saying, you have to do that. It's more, it's where we're naturally headed, and it's worth it because then you express yourself in an ordered way of who you really are, and that is super sticky sweet and amazing. So let's point worry to somebody else. If we worry about a child, maybe a teen that's driving for the first time or they're new at driving, and I'm a mom, I had kids start driving, but I chose not to worry because I knew this, that I realize they know how to react in an instantaneous moment if something goes wrong because I've spent all this time parenting them so that they filled in the gaps of their problems and they accepted their natural consequence and worked it out and found their own way. They are kids who know themselves. They were kids that were raised to be very independent. So that helped support me not worrying. But we want to learn that now if we didn't spend the time doing that and investing in those early years, now is the time that we need to realize we can believe in our kids that are out there driving. And when we believe in them, what happens is they tend to write um, their own storm. They tend to be probably bothered by it inside and figure it out on their own when the parent gets right with it with themselves and believes in the child. The other thing, and the reason I'm using a car situation is that is a make it or break it moment potentially in a car where somebody's coming down the road too fast, whatever's happening. And when a parent believes in their child, the chances of that child making a good moment, instantaneous decision under pressure is very high when they know that the parent believes in them. And while I have not put this into a scientific study, watching my kids again and again, when I would, even on a ball field, when my son was a pitcher, I'd say, I don't believe in him and I'm going to worry about him. And he'd fumble. And then I'd say, I'm going to believe in him. I've done it with sports teams that are professionals and I see the difference. That might sound silly to you, but you can play with that yourself. You can take that and do it with a pet that you have, or do that process with something or somebody in your life and see what plays out. I know I'm the weirdo, but these things are important and we want to move away from worry. There is a place for worry, but it is a very small percent of our lives, and we spend a lot of time worrying because look at our world, there's a lot to worry about. But I'm telling you, if you try out what I'm talking about and deal with yourself behind the scenes at a later time, that you might spend a day or an hour or a week or a month wrestling with that frustration about why do I worry so much? But when you keep going to the pattern, you'll start to see where that pattern gets created. Oh, after I talk to this person, I start worrying and I start getting in my head. Why is that? Right? And we can break it down until we can get to the point where somebody says something to us that has been doing it chronically for years. And we say, you know what? That scares me when you say that. It doesn't work for me to hear those things. Right? And then we're done with it. Okay, so that's the ultimate goal, is that we know how to communicate so that it stops the train right at the beginning of it. But that's not what we're aiming for right now. We're really getting back with what is going on there for ourselves and the getting into the emotion of it. Okay, I hope that this has helped you out. If you have any questions, just write them in the comments. And otherwise, like, share, follow, do all the things. And thanks very much. Also, the one last thing is, my work is about collapsing narcissism. I spent 22 years observationally researching that. And so really, narcissism serves no one. So together, let's collapse it.